Hi, my name is Justin DeTavio, and welcome to Film Don't Lie, part of Saturday Blitz's College Football's Fifth Quarter series. Again, the accompanying article will be out sooner rather than later on Saturday Blitz. I am Justin DeTavio from IronmanFootballBlog.com, on Twitter at IMFB_BLOG, and we're going to discuss 5 different topics, as we normally do, when we're looking into college football from the week here of February 19th. And so our topics are going to be assistant coaching moves and kind of grade out the 2 best and the 2 most overrated. Lawsuits, Dan Mullen and Miami are both being sued for weird, wacky things. Alabama poaching Coach Cool from University of Miami over into the evil empire. The NFL Combine starts on Tuesday, February 27th, and that should be fun. And we can see some of our favorite guys from college football, show off their skills and talk about which drills are most important for which player, and the Arizona sex scandal stuff that's just blowing up once again. More information. But first, I want to talk about some layoffs going on. Over journalism and sports journalism in general has really taken a hit, especially with the decline of print media, and that has been never more evident, than what's gone on with some of the stuff at Sports Illustrated and then Fox. And there's been some moves towards video. Well, now the moves are away from video and back to writing, which becomes kind of suspect as to why somebody like Fox wasn't aware of that when they decided to cut all the writers. And, many of the people wound up at The Athletic and working for the All-American, like Stu Mandel, which is great. But Vox and SB Nation just released, Dan Rubenstein's one half of the Solid Verbal podcast, and, he has show Easy Call for a couple seasons. He did Wake Up College Football for a couple seasons, once with Ryan Nanny and once with Richard Johnson. And you can check out my podcast episode of a Coach Speak with Richard Johnson as well. I'll have it in the show notes. And, it's just tough when our great sport of college football has to move and maneuver around, and we're not going to have the same content at the same rate from some of its best people and from the same places, and it's just tough. So I just wanted to get that out there. Check out the Solid Verbal. So we're going to start off now with our actual main topics, and our first is going to be assistant coaching moves. And what are the 2 best and the 2 worst? Well, the 2 best, I've been touting this one since the day it happened, was Alex Grinch to Ohio State. Great coup because, first he was poached from Washington State, where he was a defensive coordinator. He comes to Ohio State to be like a 10th assistant that hasn't even been really defined yet. But Urban Meyer was also able to keep Greg Schiano as defensive coordinator. He's not going to allow 55 points from Iowa. He's going to have new ideas for them. He's young. He's an excited coach. He'll be thrilled to be back in Columbus, Ohio, where he's from. And the guy's a winner. 3 titles at Mount Union. A little bit of 4.25 influence, which should help Greg Schiano and should help Urban Meyer and just adjusting to new times with the amount of talent that they have and the coaching staff they've built. That's a great hire. And you get a coordinator come and be an assistant and kind of build for the future. Anytime you can do that, it's a great move. Mike Elko, Texas A&M, is another big-time move. It killed Jimbo Fisher, Florida State, to lose Jeremy Pruitt to Alabama, and that's when the defense fell apart, and Charles Kelly wasn't able to keep it going. And a pro-style offense really needs a strong defense because you know that you're going to kind of hand the ball back, and you're going to punt and play field position. Well, you can't do that without a defense, and so Jimbo went out of his way with the big-time contract that he's got and signed Mike Elko out, pulled him from Notre Dame, brought him in. He did wonders in Notre Dame really quick. And, between working with the quarterbacks and now having a defense, I think Texas A&M can be very viable very quick under Jimbo Fisher and Mike Elko. The most overrated, I think the first one is John Chavis, leaving Texas A&M, obviously with the staff turnover and going to Arkansas. I mean, it's good that a young coach like Chad Morris has somebody older, more veteran around, but you'd think he would want a little bit more on the innovating side. John Chavis did have some great LSU defenses. He ended off with a 9th-rated defense LSU 2014. He then goes to Texas A&M to 27th. But then all of a sudden they're 36th, and then in 2017 they're 71st, and he allowed that 34-point comeback to Josh Rosen. So I'm not sure if maybe he's just getting a little too old for the game and it's kind of passed him by. We'll find out quick because, I don't think Chad Morris is going to hang on to anybody at Arkansas if it's not going to work out. Who are our worst and most overrated? Part 2 is Matt Canada over to Maryland. Not because I don't think he's a good offensive coordinator. I just don't think his scheme fits what he'll probably do, which is lead. So 7 schools in 9 years, it's not that I don't think his offense works. It's that when you bring in somebody like this that has such a gimmicked, varied offense, it's so different from everybody else. You have to worry about, can you easily replace him with somebody else, or is it totally another refresh button? Hit the reset on the old NES system and start all over again. I think that's what's going to happen. And if he leaves for an 8 school in 10 years, which is highly likely, or even an 8 school in 11 years, you have to hit the reset button after Matt Canada. It seems like they completely go away from his play call system, his style, once he's gone. So that's the only concern I have there with the Matt Canada hiring, is that when he leaves again, he's not staying at Maryland forever. When he leaves again in a year or two, you have to hit the reset button, and that would be DJ Durkin's. Who knows how many offensive coordinators at that point. So that's the reason why I think that those two are overrated as far as hirings that people are excited about. Moving on to the fourth topic, weird lawsuits of the week. Dan Mullen and the Ole Miss Rebel Rags store lawsuit is very strange. This has to go with the collusion that Rebel Rags felt with Jeremy Tunsil's stepfather, Lindsey Miller, for reporting that some prospects received illegal merchandise. And while Tunsil stayed at Ole Miss and then kind of came out and reported everything once he was going to the NFL, the two other prospects decided to move on to Mississippi State. They believe there's collusion, and Dan Mullen is part of that, and so Rebel Rags decided to put them into a lawsuit because Ole Miss wound up on probation and still an investigation, and Rebel Rags says it's defamation of their character, that they never gave impermissible benefits. Another weird lawsuit is Arkansas State is suing Miami. This is per Football Scoop for $650,000 over the canceled game from Hurricane Irma. Early September, the Miami and South Florida community was devastated by Hurricane Irma, and many of the players didn't have power. It was a better idea to stay home, take care of your family, make sure things were safe. It was going to be hard to play a football game, be away from your family, if you were worried about that hurricane. And so Miami decided it was best to just cancel the game. It's not a conference game. It was not a big-time matchup for them. It's not a huge recruiting pull to go down to Arkansas and play a game. Really not sure why it was scheduled in the first place. If it was in Louisiana or Texas, even Pennsylvania, Ohio, sure. Jersey, sure. But to go out to Arkansas didn't make a lot of sense in the first place. Game was canceled, and it obviously could not be played because of a natural disaster. It's considered one of the worst storms in United States history. And this is just proof. Things are all about the money. $650,000 they owed for the game. That's what they want back. So proof that this is a business that is all about the money, not about the people. Our third topic is Alabama's ability to poach another great assistant coach, this time Coach Kuligowski from Miami, the defensive line coach, and their totally revamped Alabama Crimson Tide 2018 coaching staff. Coach Cool, as he's known, is known for having these ridiculously tenacious defensive lines that produce 5 first-round defensive line draft picks in 15 years. He's 49 years old. He spent most of his career at Missouri working with the Tigers, but he's from Michigan. He played at Toledo. He just might be more of a smaller town, college town feel guy than a Coral Gables, Miami, bigger city guy. He did do wonderful things with Miami defensive line as far as development and deployment goes in his 2 years there. But as far as acquisition goes, Miami has really struggled to recruit well on the defensive line. Now, they've taken 3 4-star guys and turned them into studs, but they aren't getting the 5-star guys that are down in South Florida that Kuligowski should be able to pull. Miami finished first in sacks and fourth in tackles for loss this past season, 2017. But again, wasn't able to pull in some of the bigger name defensive line prospects from South Florida. He did take a guy that maybe was, kind of flirting with the bust label before they got there, and Chad Thomas, a 5-star. And Chad Thomas is now a major NFL prospect. They say his hand movement and hand fighting is better than ever. He was quick, he was athletic. Kuligowski is a great defensive line coach, and Alabama has a huge steal. It's just they don't need the recruiting prowess that Miami does. And so I think it is a huge move for Alabama to get a very talented teacher in Kuligowski, and I think it hurts Miami to lose the teaching aspect, but they needed a bigger recruiter, and Charlie Partridge is the rumored name. Man, he did a great job putting together a rotation. He had rotations at Miami with guys like Gerald Willis and R.J. McIntosh, Kendrick Norton, Anthony Moten, Pat Bethel, and the defensive end as well. Demetrius Jackson, Joe Jackson, Chad Thomas, Trent Harris. Guys just pulling off sack after sack in games and dominating game against Notre Dame. Was defensive line like fury. So between Cool and Diaz, they just got pressure on the quarterback, tackles for loss. And Alabama's entire staff is kind of different. Both coordinators have changed out. Brian Dabble went to the Bills, and Mike Locksley replaces him as offensive coordinator. Jeremy Pruitt took the head coaching job at Tennessee, and you're seeing Tosh Lupoy replacing him. Both guys being promoted from the current staff as they start to bring in guys from outside, like Kuligowski. Alabama's just trying to rebuild that machine, and Nick Saban, he's got the money to throw it around, and obviously the success. As we look into the second topic, it's the NFL Combine starts Tuesday. And, who's going to get the biggest benefit from what drills? So they have all kinds of drills and interviews and tests, measurements of your hand size and stuff like that. But when we're looking at actual drills, so in our agilities, a 20 shuttle or a 3-cone, I think Bradley Chubb, the defensive end from NC State, will benefit the most. He's going to show that he can cover ground enough to play against RPOs, run pass options, and to be able to come to balance, scrape, and make a play when trying to defend against zone read quarterback, so inside zone read quarterback. I think that's going to be a huge benefit to Chubb when he shows that ability and that agility to stop, and change direction immediately and make a play. And I think that's what he'll show in the 20 and in the 3-cone. For the vertical and broad, I think Derwin James, the safety from Florida State, has to be able to show off that he still got it. He was injured in 2016. His 2017 was good but not great. He looked a little less explosive at times. If he can show that explosion, because the vertical is their test for the squat and the broad is test for their clean snatch, if he's able to show that explosive nature in those two jumps, I think that's going to help him be drafted into the first round. The 40-yard dash, I think it's Royce Freeman, the running back from Oregon. I think he's got to prove that at 235 pounds and being banged up the last couple of years, that he has elite speed. If he can get down the 4.5 range, I think that's great for him to prove 4.54, what have you. It's great for him to prove that he can be explosive in the NFL. Guys who run any slower than that, higher than that 4.6 range, it's tough with these elite defensive players. When you have a Bradley Chubb lining up against you, but you have a bunch of them. You have Myles Garrett, Bradley Chubb, and you have Julius Peppers. Guy still has it. You have these dynamic Watt and these guys that are defensive ends that just run like wide receivers. You've got to prove that you can hit the hole fast enough and you can explode for 12, 15-yard gains. The interview portion, I think it's Josh Rosen. I think we already know his IQ is high. His Wonderlic will be fine. We know he has the physical tools, size, arm strength, and he's got a little bit of athleticism to him. He's been banged up a little bit. I think the interview is going to show whether he's confident or cocky, whether he's tough under pressure, or whether he's just arrogant and can't back it up. I think they'll try to make or break him in the interviews. It's going to be huge for Josh Rosen to either be the number 2 pick or the number 22 pick. The Giants need a quarterback of the future, and I think Josh Rosen would be a perfect fit up there, in New York. The Wonderlic, it's going to be Baker Mayfield. He comes across a little bit as a jock, a meathead. I think if he can prove that he is intelligent, fast-thinking, quick guy, I think the Wonderlic will be big for Baker Mayfield. And I think the positional drills, I know we're going quarterback heavy here. Positional drills are going to be Lamar Jackson. And I don't think Allen from Wyoming is far behind, but the quarterback from Louisville, he's being tested a little bit. There's some deep-seated, it almost feels like racism, black quarterback stigma on Lamar Jackson, saying, well, he's a wide receiver. The guy's not a wide receiver. The guy has a strong arm. He's thrown umpteen touchdowns. Yes, he can run. So what? There's a lot of good NFL quarterbacks right now that can run. It's going to be a big part of the game. He's not a run-first guy. He's not looking to run. He's able to once something breaks down or once people aren't open. So I think they're going to be able to see Lamar Jackson show off his talents in positional type drills, making throws, throwing to receivers, getting routes. His pro day will be huge as well. Our final topic is the Arizona sex scandal. Oh, buddy, Rich Rodriguez is at it again. And this is, again, when we talk about Michigan State, we talk about Bob Davie, we had Arizona stuff before, between the Coach Speak podcast and between Film Don't Lie. Here we are again. Looking at an article that was released from Tucson.com by Caitlin Schmidt. She was talking about the amendment to a federal lawsuit filed against the University of Arizona claims that Wildcats football players gang raped female students and support staffers in the years leading up to former running back Orlando Bradford's 2016 arrest for choking his girlfriend. That is a sentence to define dysfunction, not only at Arizona or in their football program, but in college football as a whole. Just from what we've seen with Joe Mixon, Baylor, Jameis Winston allegations, just the idea that this industry, the sport that we love, has now been just built upon sexual assault and just assault against women in general. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. And there's either going to be a mass transferring from this mentality that that's okay to completely shutting down either programs or coaches, something has got to give at this point. Coach Rodriguez was fired January 2nd, 2018. The same day the $7.5 million notice of claim was filed by his former assistant was made. There's words like permissive culture in Arizona's football program, rampant sexual harassment, sexual assaults, gang rapes. That's from the lawsuit. And here's a quote from the lawsuit. Although University of Arizona received reports of this sexual harassment and violence, little, if anything, was done to stop it and or take prompt action to redress the harassment, particularly if corrective action might have been negatively impacted that potential success of the football program. Money is winning out over humans, and we need to take a deep, hard look at what college football is all about immediately before it's not a California lawsuit against concussions and the danger of the game is what kills it before it's the actions of the people that are involved, from the coaches, the admin, and the players, that kills the sport. This has been another episode of Film Don't Lie and another one with a tainted scandal in it. I'm Justin Ottavio again from IronmanFootballBlog.com. Check out the article, College Football's Fifth Quarter on Saturday Blitz. Thank you.